Hello and welcome to Scentcast. This is my first official episode on my brand new podcast, and I will be bringing you weekly episodes of all things fragrance. And today, as it is International Flower Day, I thought it very appropriate for my first episode to be about the exotic Ylang Ylang flower. So get ready to be transported to the exotic and captivating world of Ylang Ylang, the queen of flowers when it comes to perfume and aromatherapy. Its complexity is unmatched, and in the Comoros it's not only a popular scent, but it's also worn alone with no blending necessary. The flowers come from a tall tropical tree that boasts heavily scented blooms, and the oil is steam distilled from the yellow flowers. Famous for its aphrodisiac properties, useful for depression and anxiety and stress, it energizes or relaxes depending on your needs and lowers blood pressure. So therefore, it's not suitable for people who already have low blood pressure, as it will lower it further. And also a word of warning, the strong aroma can actually cause headaches with some people, so less is always more. Traditionally, newlyweds in Madagascar and the Comoros would sprinkle the petals on their marital bed. Ylang Ylang is a heart to top note, and it's in the floral family, and the aroma of some grades can be overly aggressive. Madagascan Ylang Ylang is the most common. The extra grade is readily available, but the finest grade of all is super extra Ylang Ylang, only available from the Comoros Islands, and the oil is normally reserved for the likes of Chanel and Galan, who use this refined, softer grade in their perfumes. The scent of the super extra is much more sophisticated and less cloying than other grades. The expensive price tag means it's reserved for fine fragrances and not traditionally aromatherapy remedies. It's very popular in oriental, floral, woody and chypre fragrances. But always, like I said, less is more with this exquisite, exotic, essential oil. And it blends incredibly well with white flowers. Normally in perfumery, white flowers tend to blend really well together. But the Ylang Ylang being yellow and very narcotic, like the jasmine flower, which is white, it means that it has these beautiful facets that make it a really good oil to blend with other white flowers. And the scent of it ranges from fresh and spicy to balsamic, sensual and sophisticated. And like the shape of the petals, the aroma has some banana facets. The retail cost for Ylang Ylang will cost you between 15 to 20 euros for around 10 mls of an essential oil. I was really lucky to meet a wonderful gentleman when I was in Dubai called Mahmoud Aboud. And I remember I was doing a speech at the trade centre and I'd arranged to meet him. He'd found me on, I think, Facebook. And he had a look at my brand and he thought I might be interested in his beautiful Ylang Ylang. And he gave me a sample of super extra grade Ylang Ylang. And I fell in love with this scent. It was unlike any other Ylang Ylang I'd ever experienced previously. It was so much softer. It smelled more sophisticated. It was just love at first sniff. And later in this episode I'm going to be revealing part of my interview, because I ended up interviewing Mahmoud for my book, because I found some of the things that he does is truly inspiring. So I will be talking about that a little bit later on. The distillation process and grading system of Ylang Ylang can be quite confusing, but fear not, because my wonderful friend Mahmoud Aboud has given us a layman's terms overview of that distillation process. But if we first of all compare this distillation process to that of crude oil. Now, just like crude oil is a mixture of various hydrocarbons and organic compounds that require separation before refinement, Ylang Ylang's essential oil also goes through a similar process to obtain its various grades. So let's have a look at this grading system now. As quoted by Mahmoud, Ylang Ylang is a very particular flower that produces different qualities of essential oils used in various products from perfume, soap, aromatherapy and cosmetics, etc. In fact, there's no other flower that has these different grades of essential oils. And the essential oil is produced through what is called a fractional steam distillation process that could take from between 1 to 24 hours. And normally there are 5 grades of Ylang Ylang essential oils. You have Ylang Ylang Super Extra, which is the finest. Then you have Extra, then First, then Second and Third. You might also have heard about the Complete. If you look online for Ylang Ylang essential oil, you will say something, you might see something on the bottle that says Ylang Ylang Complete. So this is not a grade of Ylang Ylang. This is a bottle of Ylang Ylang that is actually the production of blending all 5 of those grades that I just mentioned to you. And according to the Association Française de Normalisation, the AFNOR, the Comoros is the only country that can produce the super extra grade, which is mainly used in high-end perfume. The grades of Ylang Ylang are determined according to the time the flowers are actually distillated. And in this process, the number of hours the flowers get distilled determines the grade of essential oil. So let's have a look at this. The first portion of the distillation is collected after 60 to 90 minutes, and this is the super extra grade. Then you have the extra grade, which is obtained after 2 to 3 hours of the distillation process. The first grade is obtained after 3 to 4 hours. The second grade is obtained from 4 to 6 hours, and the third grade is obtained after 15 to 24 hours. The quality of grade of the essential oil is measured with a densimeter that determines the density of the oil. And since there are no agreed standards, the quality of a given grade varies from one producer to another. Now let's tell you a little bit more about Mahmoud. Mahmoud is the founder and CEO of Bioylang in the Comoros. It's a company that distillates essential oils from the Comoros Islands, particularly the Ylang Ylang flower, of which the Comoros is the world's major producer. And as I mentioned before, it was a twist of fate that brought our paths together. With just one whiff, I was hooked on his super extra Ylang Ylang. Honestly, it was nothing like I'd ever smelled before. And a lot of people do have a love-hate relationship with Ylang Ylang. But if you ever get a chance to try the super extra and you hate Ylang Ylang normally, I'm convinced you'll change your opinion, or at least learn to like it. But Mahmoud is on a mission to save trees and get a fair share for the farmers of the Ylang Ylang flower. And when I asked him, what made you pursue this career? He answered, actually, essential oil distillation is not my educational background. I'm a career diplomat. I consider myself an autodidact of essential oils, and I got involved in essential oil distillation because of 2 things. First, while serving at the permanent mission of the Comoros to the United Nations in New York, I worked on the elaboration of the UNFCCC, which is the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, which considers what can be done to reduce global warming. Since I knew that the distillation process of essential oils in countries like the Comoros used mainly firewood as a source of energy, it was destroying the forest. So I decided to search for alternative solutions that could protect the environment. Thus, I found a resolution using burners that could distillate essential oils without using a single piece of wood. The second point that motivated me was, while serving as an ambassador in countries such as Asia, China, Japan and Southeast Asia, where there's a strong aromatherapy culture, I noticed how popular and expensive Ylang Ylang essential oil was, a plant that originated in this part of the world. But meanwhile, back in the Comoros, farmers were not getting a fair share of their own produce. So because of my passion to protect the environment and help farmers gain an equitable share of their labour, I decided to distillate essential oils. I mean, wow, how inspiring is he? You know, and it's just sheer fate that I met him, and I'm so happy that I did. And I asked him about what his main mission is. And he said it was to protect the environment, help farmers, and popularise Ylang Ylang essential oil in regions where it's mainly used in perfumery and cosmetics, because it's an outstanding product for wellness. I also mentioned many people associate Ylang Ylang with Madagascar as producing the finest oil. And I said, well, what makes your Ylang Ylang in the Comoros Islands the best in the world? And his response was, no doubt the Comoros Ylang Ylang essential oil is the best in the world. And I'm not saying that because I'm from the Comoros. It's a natural fact and scientifically proven and accepted by AFNOR, which I mentioned earlier. After the hydrodistillation of fresh hand-picked flowers, there are 5 grades produced by the distillation of the flowers. And from the Comoros, you can obtain all of the grades, all 5 grades, of which the complete is then produced. But Madagascar and other countries produce only the lower grades, the 1st to the 3rd. I asked him about Guerlain being the finest in the industry and being reserved normally for the likes of Chanel and Guerlain, and he said yes, absolutely. Super extra and extra grades are mainly used in high-end perfumes. Actually, 8 out of 10 of the most expensive perfumes in the world contain Ylang Ylang super extra or extra grades. And he said that the super extra is considered to be the creme de la creme, since it's obtained from the first hour of the distillation. It has a higher concentration of the highest composition of the flowers. And they only use the yellow flowers because when they turn yellow, this means that the Ylang Ylang flower is now ripe. How many flowers do you think it takes to produce 2 to 3 litres of essential oil for the Ylang Ylang? Do you want to have a guess? 2 to 3 litres? What's that, like a couple of big bottles of water? How many flowers in weight do you think they need? 50 kilos? 60? It's a whopping 100 kilos. And these are flowers. They're just using the flowers. So imagine how light they are and how many flowers you actually need to produce 2 to 3 litres. 100 kilos. That's like the weight of me. Goodness me. I also asked him about how much oil of Ylang Ylang is produced each year in the Comoros Islands. Now, if you look at the global production of essential oil of Ylang Ylang, it's between 100 to 120 tonnes a year. And in the Comoros, they produce around 60 to 70 tonnes, which is almost 60% of the world's production, whilst Madagascar, by comparison, produces 20 to 25 tonnes annually. And they mainly export more than 70% of it to France, and the rest of it goes to the US, Germany, and Italy. For those of you who haven't seen the video on YouTube, have a look at the video that I have on my YouTube channel, The Scent Academy, or by Melanie Jane. And I have a video that was uploaded by, I think it was CNN or BBC, maybe CNN Africa. And it's talking about this new distillation process that Mahmoud actually helped develop. And I asked him to explain what it is and what's the benefits of this. And he said, the new process differs completely from the traditional one because we don't use a single piece of wood. While with the traditional type, it requires several trees to distillate 100 kilos. You can imagine how fast you can destroy the forest of a small island state. But the new process is also different because it produces a higher quality oil, and it produces 30% more oil than the traditional one. And this distillation of the Ylang Ylang is one of the major revenues for the people and the government of the island of the Comoros. And what Mahmoud wants to achieve for the people involved in the industry and those living on the island is for the farmers involved in the industry to transform their raw materials into the Comoros and obtain an equitable share from the production. He really wants to support the farmers there. And this brings me to the whole sustainable thing. There's a lot of talk these days about sustainability. So I asked him, is the production of Ylang Ylang sustainable? And he said, well, the introduction of the new distillation process is an option to make Ylang Ylang more sustainable. And there's a lot of people on the bandwagon saying, well, we'll just use synthetic oils because, using the raw materials, it's not sustainable because you have to ship them overseas, etc. But what you're doing is you're denying the farmers whose very existence on this planet depends upon people buying the Ylang Ylang essential oil and also the dried vanilla pods. So if we turn to synthetics, created from petroleum, and I mean, how sustainable is that? We are denying these farmers, and that's why I'm really on board with using naturals, and it really gets my back up when people say that synthetic is more sustainable. What are you doing about the farmers, though? What's going to happen to their livelihood if everybody turns to synthetics? But Mahmoud does a lot of studying when it comes to Ylang Ylang. We're connected on WhatsApp, and whenever he comes across an interesting article about Ylang Ylang, we always discuss it together, and he's always sending me brand new articles. And he says, there's a lot of therapeutic advantages in Ylang Ylang, even Ylang Ylang. By smelling Ylang Ylang or even rubbing a few drops on your skin, diluted please, it can be useful for memory and your thinking skills. Ylang Ylang essential oil is of high medicinal value due to its composition, and it can be used as an antidepressant, an antiseptic, a hypertensive, and an aphrodisiac. Who doesn't want one of those once in a while? It can also be a factor for relaxation by lowering your blood pressure. And it's an excellent product for insomniacs. And of course, apply it with a carrier oil. So you must always use a carrier oil. And the rule of thumb, you can get confused when people talk about percentage, 1%, 2%, all of this kind of stuff. If you've got a little bottle with oil in and there's 10 mils of jojoba oil, let's say, and you want to add some essential oils to it, 10 mils, put 10 drops. If you've got a 30 ml bottle, 30 mils, put 30 drops. So that's my rule of thumb. It makes it much more simple for you to understand rather than people talking about percentages. People sometimes just can't get their head around it, especially when they just want to quickly whip up a blend. And I actually make solid perfume just with my super extra Ylang Ylang that I have from Mahmoud. And I have one at my bedside and I put it on. If I wake up in the middle of the night, I find I can't get back to sleep, I'll put this on my wrist. This is made purely with jojoba oil and beeswax and nothing else apart from the Ylang Ylang. It's a 3-ingredient perfume I have by my bedside and I'm obsessed with it. Because it's a heart to top note, it doesn't last a long time on the skin, which I'm actually a fan of because I don't want fragrance sometimes to last the live long day, because I don't want it to interfere perhaps with other fragrances that I'm wearing. But I do use it for anxiety, also for insomnia. And with my solid perfumes that I'm selling, I'm giving away little samples of the solid perfumes. They're not actually for sale at the moment, but maybe by the time you're reading, well, why do I keep saying reading? I'm just not used to doing podcasts because this is my first episode. I'm used to writing and doing videos. So by the time you're listening to this podcast, perhaps my solid perfumes will be up for sale. And if they are, then you buy one and you can look forward to a free solid Ylang Ylang scent. The most popular uses and applications of Ylang Ylang in the Comoros Islands amongst the locals is actually called the oil of the elders, because Mahmoud said, well, our parents admire it because it relaxes the muscles and reduces stress. So there's something to think about, isn't it? Food for thought. And as a final thought, Mahmoud's future hopes for the Comoros Islands and the production of the exquisite Ylang Ylang flower is to obtain a label to design the Comoros as a protected geographical indication for Ylang Ylang, to transform and add value in the Comoros instead of shipping the raw material overseas. I'll end with one of my favourite quotes from him. Because of my passion to protect the environment and help farmers gain an equitable share of their labour, I decided to distillate essential oils. And what an absolute wonderful job he's doing right there. So I hope you enjoyed that overview of the Ylang Ylang flower. Bear in mind, when you are buying essential oils, look at the bottle, make sure that it doesn't say fragrance oil, it must say pure essential oil. It would always have the Latin name on the bottle. It should also have the country of origin, whether you get it from Madagascar or from the Comoros. If you're getting lavender, it will probably say Bulgaria, perhaps England. Most probably it will say France, but always look for the country of origin, the Latin name, and the fact that it says pure essential oil. And if you go onto my YouTube channel, I actually have a tutorial of what to look for when you're buying essential oils. So if you do get your hands on some Ylang Ylang Extra, let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think of it. I hope you have enjoyed this inaugural episode of Scentcast. I'm going to be bringing you so many more fascinating facts about fragrance, and I can't wait. The next episode I'm launching with 3 episodes because I thought I would give you some variety. So the next one is the Scented Chronicles Part 1, which is about the evolution of fragrance through the ages, and Scented Chronicles Part 2 is more up until the modern day, from the early 1900s up until the modern day, and my thoughts on the future of fragrance. Thanks for listening. A biento. I see you next time. Well, I won't see you, but you'll hear me. Take care now and stay fabulous.